This pattern is a little bit unusual in that the final look of the pattern comes right at the end where the whole project opens up and your final scarf pattern is going to look like this. But while you're knitting it, the only drop stitches that you are going to be seeing are going to be the ones that go horizontally. The drop stitches that go vertically don't appear until the very end, and so you can't tell what your scarf is going to look like until you finish knitting the whole thing. And if you like that idea to be a surprise, absolutely go for it. I am too impatient to want to do that. I want to see what it's going to look like right away. So I want to show you guys how I did this and made the section at the end open up as I was still knitting it so that I could truly get a sense of what this project was going to look like. It's a very straightforward thing to do. There's another video that shows you how to drop the stitches at the end when you bind off, and you will be doing that even if you do this trick as well. But if you're like me and you just can't stand it, you need to see it ahead of time, this is how you can do that. So you can choose to do this on any row that's not one of the two rows that creates the horizontal drop stitches. So I'm one row past that. And now I want to knit my 4 stitches. And again, this is just a trick if you can't wait until the end of your project to see what it looks like. You do not need to do this if you can wait till the end. So the pattern, we are going to knit our 4 stitches just like we would be normally doing. And then the 5th stitch, this is, if we see it on the other side, this is that row of stockinette stitch. It's easier to see on the knit side than the purl side. So that 5th stitch is that row of stockinette stitch down the entire scarf. We are going to take that loop and push it off into the air and pull and tug so that that starts to unravel just a little bit. But if we do nothing else and we go across and we drop off all of those stitches, we are going to have too few stitches on our needle when we continue knitting this project. So before we unravel the whole thing so that we can see what it looks like, we need to put a stitch back. So we just dropped a stitch off there, we've released it so that it can unravel now through the whole project. We're just going to take that strand closest to the top of our needles. We're going to take that strand and we are going to turn it backwards and stick it on our needle. So we have put a stitch back. We dropped the stitch off to release it so that we can unravel the whole thing and see what it's going to look like. But to keep our stitch count the same, to make as we continue knitting the scarf, to make it work out, we need to put that loop back on again. And now we're just going to continue doing that same thing. So I'm going to knit 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the 5th stitch, and do make sure when you're doing this that it is that long row of stockinette stitches that goes up the whole scarf. I am going to take that loop, push it off into the air, let that unravel a couple of stitches down, and then I'm just going to take that top strand. I just got rid of a stitch. To keep my stitch count the same, I need to put that stitch back. So I'm just going to grab the loop, turn it backwards, and stick it on my needle. And now that allows me to really get a sense of what my scarf is going to look like. I think it'll be easier for me to show you if I put this down this way. So to get those stitches to release, we are just going to tug and pull a little bit on our project. And you do have to fight with it just a little bit. You're not gonna turn around and just have these all open up for you. You're gonna have to kind of pull and tug a little bit to get that loop to come down. So we pull and tug, we let that dropped stitch travel all the way down. If you feel like it's stuck and you can't get it to go through, you may find that some of the small fibers are kind of entwined together. So here's my loop. As I pull, that pulls out. And if you can see the little tiny strands that kind of make it stick together. Sometimes those strands can build up, and if you just take your finger and poke it through there, it's going to break those and let that stitch travel down more. So this we're unraveling. And that allows our piece to open up so that you can really get a sense of what it's going to look like when it's done, how wide your scarf is going to be, how the colors are going to play with the amount of open work that it is. If you just can't wait to the end, that's the trick. And I do it every time I knit this kind of pattern because I can never wait until the end.